Okay, so today I prepared a demo about Qwik, which is one of the, let's say, React or JavaScript frameworks. What's so different about Qwik is on their website they say that it's built by performance nerds. And if anybody of you like follows JavaScript world, you probably know Miško Hevery. He's like obsessed with performance and with fast up. So in the company builder.io, they just figure out that the way frameworks works nowadays are like not performance friendly, especially because of the hydration of the UI. They decided to like rethink the whole way how to build the app and how to avoid the hydration, and that's how Qwik was born. So yeah, it's both by performance nerds, probably for nerds, but also for everyone who wants to build the app, and the performance is the key. And I would like start with a question like, what's the biggest problem when it comes to performance of the web app? Any tips?
State management.
Think bigger.
All right, requests. Jump.
I think the whole problem is the JavaScript itself.
Okay.
Because I think if you imagine like how fast your app is and how much JavaScript you have, it's like the more JavaScript, the slower the app is. But also, if we want like nicer and more reactive apps, we need that JavaScript. So like that's the problem which I think like nowadays we are trying to solve, because we want the interactivity. So like it's nice, it's smooth, but also we are making it slow if we have like lots of JavaScript. Like for those who are not like from the JavaScript world and like don't know how we got here is, let's say that we had things like React, which are server-side rendering, and how it works is you have like one simple HTML, which is almost empty, just with like few text, and we have like a huge bundle. So it means that if you go to the application, you get the HTML fast, and then you get the whole bundle of JavaScript. And the bigger it is, the longer it takes to actually display something. So there's like the problem, which is called like the blank screen problem, because you see nothing before it gets built on your machine, and then you see something. It's like that meme with like John Travolta, like he's wondering where the app is. Then the solution, like where like frameworks like Next.js and others goes, is they decided to build the HTML on the server. But whatever is built on the server is still static. So let's say you get the web page, you also get some JavaScript, but that's when the hydration comes in place. It means you have the HTML, so it has the buttons, it has the inputs, but you need that JavaScript to make it interactive. So the problem with Next.js and other app is if you click the button really fast, nothing will happen, because basically the hydration and all the problem is you build it once on the server and you get static HTML, and then basically the hydration is kind of another build that happens on the client. So like the idea behind Qwik is, why the heck are we building the application twice? How can that improve the performance itself? Right. So, and the question is, it's if not hydration, how to solve the problem? And like behind Qwik, they call it resumability, and it has like two main points, and it's delay the JavaScript as long as possible. So it means don't download like one huge bundle, or don't download too much JavaScript. But also, in matter to make it interactive, you need to serialize things like application state and other things, so it can be interactive and it can work the way we need. So like how I would explain resumability is, we try to avoid building the application twice. So the HTML we send from the server needs to kind of be enhanced. It needs to know about event listeners, about the component tree, about the app state. So once it's sent to the client can simply just resume where the server ended. So it means like this way they are able to totally scrap the second build on the client. It's done on the server, and once it's on the client, it just continues where the server finished. And like all the magic is done with one file. It's Qwik Loader. It's about 1 kilobyte of a JavaScript file, and it includes the like optimizer, which is like all the magic. Like the optimizer says like how to split the JavaScript files, when to download which file, and how like this all should work. So like at the initial load, you need just 1 kilobyte of JavaScript for the Qwik application to work. Yeah, but there, yes, and just how they do it is they have like the component API, which if you define I would say if you know React, the Qwik is really nothing special. It has lots of similar things. If you define a component, you can see this like weird $sign, but that $sign is like signal during the build process that this should be one JavaScript file. So like every component is like serialized into one file. Like every event handler, like if you have on click, you also need to put there a $sign for like fetching data. You use task hook, which also has $sign. So it means like you may have one file where you have several components. You can have several like event handlers, one or more tasks, and each part of it will be one JavaScript. So it's very aggressive into how much JavaScript files you have. You may have dozens, maybe even hundreds of JavaScript files, but each file will be extremely small. And like the magic behind it is, the question would be, okay, so if we have hundreds of JavaScript files, when do we download it, right? When do we know when it's the time to download the app? So usually you have like the script file, and you like when you download it, you download a huge file of JavaScript. In React, you can just delay something like lazy load it, but then you download it. So the Qwik approaches it differently, like that optimizer like knows which files you might need immediately, and which files you may need later, and which files most likely you may not need based on your entry point, and they stream all the files like to the client. So when you download the HTML file, they start streaming the JavaScript using the service worker, and once the JavaScript is actually needed, it just retrieved from the cache of your service worker. So that's how like they achieve it to be extremely fast. And also like interesting thing is they use signals for state management, which seems now also to be a trend. Yeah, but otherwise, as you can see, if you know React, it's really like nothing unusual. It's very similar when it comes to like the way of writing the code, because all the magic is like how it actually is built, how it's downloaded to the client. They have something they call Qwik City, which is like all the server-side features. So everything works as like nowadays we would expect. Like the routing is based on the folder system. There are like pages, there are layout files that you can like define your layouts. Like similar to Remix, there are like loaders and actions. So what you define as a loader is how you get the data inside your component. Action is if you need to submit the data. Validators, middleware. Also, like what is like kind of maybe not so intuitive is like that server with the $sign. This is just basically if you need to define like piece of code that will run on the server, something like a server actions in the new version of the React. Okay, so maybe now I will show you hopefully how to, let's say if we want to create like a new application, we just use npm create Qwik with the latest version. So there are multiple ways how to initialize. Let's say that we start with like the recommended way, which means we include the Qwik, which is the component API, but also the Qwik City for the server features. Yes, yeah. We also get a joke, so we can entertain ourselves while we are waiting for. And also, like they include links if you don't know like where to start. Like go to the documentation or check the social media or some videos to get you started. But let's look actually inside. So it's probably what you would expect. It's very similar, like if you work with Next, Remix, or other frameworks, very similar, like folder structure. There is just the root, which has some providers, some meta links. Here is like where it registers the server worker. Inside the routes folder, you define like all your pages of your application. So let's say like index, we have here like index file, but it's really just I would say like normal way to write a component. We can define like the meta title and the head with the head function. If we look into something as simple as like a to-do list, we have like this route loaders, which is where you actually like load the data. It can be some fetch, some look up into a database. We have the action, which is how you actually like post your data. Maybe the interesting thing would be to actually run it. So let's do it with npm run preview, which preview is like the version. It's not like for development, but you can see how it actually. Maybe the magic will be to actually see how the network looks like. So let's say this is something what's rendered like on the server, but it has some application state. And if I click the button here, you can see that it just downloads immediately some JavaScript, but it's downloaded from the service worker. So that's why it's really fast. And if I would just be really fast, it would have like, it has like no delay on the UI. So I would say this is actually like the magic behind everything. Even if we try something like and I clear it here. So it's interactive, but now it downloaded few very small files just to perform the action that I had. It needed like a bunch of files for simple adding of an item, but since now I already have everything, now I don't need any JavaScript because it can I already downloaded everything what I needed. So yeah, that's what I wanted like to show you, because I think this is like real game changer on how the applications works. If you have anything that like needs to be really fast, I think this is a way to go. And I am kind of like really excited to see if like some other frameworks will adopt this, because this is just so much better. For me, like hydration just solved the problem by introducing another problem. But this is kind of really rethinking how applications work. So not sure if anybody has some questions.
I'm wondering, because you said it all revolves around not sending JavaScript that's not needed to the client. Like the actual JavaScript you write yourself, the application logic is just a small part of it. Usually, the bigger part is the dependencies. So how that's handled. Is that handled in any special way, or is it just like a big dependencies bundle that gets sideloaded when the app runs?
I think it's just handled in those small chunks, because they know like what's the dependency of that small part you have, right? Because some dependencies you need just on the server, because they can be handled on the server. You don't actually need to send it to the client, because I think most of the dependencies are part of some either like UI libraries, like what do you need to create a UI, or just some part of the logic. But other dependencies, like if you have some validation, then it can be part of like that small function that you may have for like handling click or submit.
Oh, gotcha. So it creates a lot of small bundles.
Yes. You saw that I need probably like 10 just to add one item to the array.
But that does mean that the dependency has to be tree shapeable, right? Just in case I'm just using I have a small component that formats a date a certain way. I don't want to download the whole moment.js before I can interact.
But that's like what's that magic inside that optimizer, that they can have like everything you need, but just what you need, not like anything redundant.
Right.
Even cool. Like on that thing that you have just for one component, you may have like 10, 20 JavaScript files.
That's cool.
And also like they serialize the upstate, which is also just inside some JavaScript. So that's how you can like share the states in multiple like components, because it's just serialized somewhere, because at the end it's just a value. Gotcha. So you can store it somewhere and you can read it from somewhere.
Gotcha.
I have a question. Or
go ahead, Victor.
Can I? Okay, thank you. So it sounds like servers are fast, right? So if we do a lot of the work on the server and we don't send JavaScript to the client that we don't need immediately, we can gain a lot of performance. But is the trade-off? It sounds like we need the server close. Then we are kind of relying on the network being fast. Because it can download the JavaScript very quickly on demand or just in time. So is the trade-off that this is going to be slower on slower networks, or how does this behave on slower networks?
Think like you need server for any kind of app, right? But here the files are extremely small, so it would still perform better than like React or Next.js, because the files will be smaller at the end. And when you load the app, it starts like streaming those small files, so there will be like ready in the cache. So it does. So you would need just for the startup you need just few kilobytes, but then it just starts streaming all the files. So it's still faster because you don't need like the megabytes.
So basically, you might perhaps download the same amount of data, but you just need a smaller amount in the beginning. So
because at the beginning you really have just that index HTML, and then it starts like streaming in the background. So basically, if for some reason like you have small networks, it will like not stream because you have like you need it to download like all the CSS and everything. But when like it can download, it downloads like the JavaScript on the background.
And so the next question is, how we can host such application? Like, do you need a server? Can you like introduce some caching to those files? Because you mentioned it's streaming, right? So for streams, I guess you need like full server.
Yes, as you need nowadays.
Yeah, so you cannot just upload some of those small files to some CDN or something, or maybe
You need server because most likely you have some server logic, right?
Oh yes.
I think what better means is whether you need a standalone long-lived server, like node server, or if it can be hosted on I don't know, serverless functions or V8 isolates, something like that, or if you can cache some of the assets on S3 or on some CDN. That feels like that's like still something that's probably gonna improve over time, right? And I agree that I feel like if you put like classical Next.js server-side rendered app against this, then sure, the server is not going to be the bottleneck. Like the servers are fast, but as Victor mentioned, the network is going to be the bottleneck, right? And it's probably always faster to download smaller files, smaller files than one big one. So yeah.
Well, I think that the big thing with Qwik is the streaming, because downloading smaller files will be slower than one big file if there would be like separate TCP connection and everything. But with streaming, you create just one connection, one tunnel, and that's super fast. That's created and it can stream the data, and that's how it's achieving the speed. But maybe we have Hana Klingová on the call, and on NGO we are hosting Qwik, or at least I think it's supported. So Honza, do you know how we are doing it on Agile? Maybe we are just doing it like dumb. We don't support the streaming, but do we know how we do it?
Well, we just built it, and I don't know if there's still that option to build Qwik through Express middleware, or what was it? But we definitely do not support streaming, like HTTP streaming, because that's not possible right now from our lambdas. Yeah.
So yeah, we hosted it the old way. We don't on Agile. We don't support the streaming of those files. So the benefits of Qwik wouldn't be there, I guess.
Of course, as any framework, like the Builder.io also provides hosting, so that would be like the out-of-the-box solution.
Yeah, and Builder.io is something we can definitely recommend. So it was in our evaluation with Victor, and it's really amazing software if you want to build quickly UI very fast, and your team is, let's say, like marketing or non-engineers. So we almost picked that for a project, but yeah, Builder.io something to check out definitely. Okay, any more questions? Maybe on the call? Anyone? Okay, if there are no questions, thank you very much, Hanka, for the demo. We can have a follow-up in the JavaScript channel on our Slack. So feel free to ask any questions, and we will share the recording. And also, if you know more information or you have some interesting insights, feel free to share them in the channel. So thank you.